The Trump administration textbook example of a zero-sum mentality, scarcity marketing. Look at Elon Musk, the outsider became the insider. And here where it gets really interesting. In today's world, there is a weak spot that defines modern society, a vulnerability that's been woven into everything, from politics to personal relationships. It is a concept that is so deeply ingrained in our psyches that it shapes how we navigate this world, how we navigate this life, and I'm talking about scarcity. Scarcity is not just about limited resources like food and water. It's about a mentality that is a fear-driven belief that there is not enough to go around. And that mindset makes us so manipulable, whether it is through corporate marketing, political schemes, or even in our day-to-day interactions. Scarcity is the primal fear that tomorrow won't bring enough money, enough power, enough love, enough food, or even enough time. It is a mindset that we have carried since our ancestors roamed the savannah, terrified that a lack of resources might spell their doom. This survival instinct, though really useful in the wild, now manifests in our relentless drive to accumulate more and more and more than we need. It's almost like the perfect formula for creating a consumer, right? Take a look around. We live in a world of limited edition everything. Have you ever bought something just because it is a buy now or miss out forever deal? Welcome to the scarcity economy, where scarcity is manufactured to keep you consuming. Even people who are wildly successful often feel this void inside, this endless fear driving them to grab more and more. Scarcity makes us so crafty. It teaches us how to outsmart others, whether that's manipulating people in personal relationship or finding loopholes in the law. There is a sense of pride, when we outsmart someone. And that's not just ego. Think about how you feel when you snag a deal or get something really cheaper than expected. Like a winner, right? And when we can dodge responsibility or avoid consequences, we often jump at the chance. It's all about protecting our scarce resources. And neuroscience here offers us a clue. When we snag a deal or get something others don't, our brain rewards us with a dopamine hit. It's like winning a game we didn't even know we were playing. You know that rush you feel when you outsmart someone, like, okay, well done. It's scarcity telling your brain, good job. You have secured your survival for another day. Even in personal relationships, scarcity pushes us to manipulate, guilt trip, or blame others to protect our limited resources, whether that's emotional energy, time, love, security. It is why we might sometimes twist even a conversation to make someone else feel like they are in the wrong, even when you know they are not. So let's be real, we are all guilty of bending the rules, whether it is copying someone else's work, shortchanging someone, or even pirating a book online. Accountants exploit loopholes in the law very often, and I think they feel really clever for outsmarting the system. I detected the loophole, I beat the game. And here where it gets really interesting. On the one hand, we try to outsmart not just individuals, but entire systems, be it the government, capitalism, or corporations, because we feel exploited by them. We think like, if I steal a little bit from them, it will hurt them. But isn't that a bit absurd? We are battling a system we despise by using the very same tactics we criticize. Instead of creating new systems or rules, we're just becoming what we hate. On the flip side, those who disdain the system often do everything they can to climb to the top of it, gaining control over others by wielding the same laws they once opposed. Look at Elon Musk. He started out as the ultimate disruptor, taking on finance with PayPal, energy with Tesla, and space with SpaceX. But as Musk climbed the ladder, his business practices began to resemble those of the big corporations he once criticized. Tesla's labor policies, for instance, or freedom of speech in Twitter, or the way he cozies up to governments for contracts and subsidies. The outsider became the insider. Or take Ralph Nader, a crusader against corporate greed, who ran for US president several times. He aimed to break the two-party system, but ended up reinforcing it by splitting the progressive vote. It is a classic case of trying to dismantle the system by playing the game only to become a part of it. All of this points back to the scarcity mindset, which is deeply rooted in the zero-sum game mentality. The core idea is that there is only so much pie to go around, and if you get a slice, I lose one, so I'd better get mine no matter how I have to do it. In a zero-sum world, someone else's success feels like our failure. It is a lose-win mindset that assumes resources, whether they are material, emotional, social, are limited. If you win, it means I lose. Now let's zoom out. What happens if this scarcity mentality scales up to international politics and economics? Take the US-China trade war. It is a textbook example of a zero-sum mentality. The Trump administration saw China's rise as a direct threat to the US economy. They slapped tariffs on Chinese goods, assuming that China's success meant America's loss. It is a zero-sum mindset at its core. This idea has long driven fossil fuel companies too. For years, they have argued that environmental regulations are bad for business, and if the planet wins, they lose. But here's the kicker. This mindset is not just outdated, it's dangerous. Believing that there is only so much to go around perpetuates conflict, fuels populism, and leaves us more divided than ever. Now let's bring it back to something you've probably encountered today, whether you realized it or not. Scarcity marketing. Corporations are masters of using scarcity to control consumers' behavior. Think about limited time offers or only 3 left in stock messages. These tactics play on the same fear of missing out that our ancestors experienced when they saw limited resources. For example, Amazon deals or Nike's exclusive sneaker drops create this sense of urgency, compelling people to buy now. It is scarcity in action, tricking our brains into assigning more value to something just because it's about to disappear. And it works because our fear of losing something often outweighs the joy of gaining it. This fear activates the amygdala, the emotional center of our brain, overriding logical decision making. Remember the old cookie jar experiment? In 1975, a researcher named Stephen Workle showed participants 2 jars of cookies, one full and one nearly empty. The result? People valued the nearly empty jar's cookies way more, even though they were identical. That's the scarcity manipulation, plain and simple. It is the same reason travel websites like Booking.com show you how many other people are viewing the same room, or how few are left. It's not about the actual scarcity of rooms. It's about creating this perception that pushes you to act better fast. So can we actually build a world that is not a zero-sum game? Yeah, we have been moving in that direction since the mid-20th century. Globalization driven by political goals like avoiding another world war. We're not that successful at it. And tech advances like airplanes, the internet, started pulling the world closer and closer together. But as we sped ahead, new challenges around cooperation integration popped up. And now we're seeing a bit of, pullback. And here is the thing, we cannot just stop global integration. Artificial intelligence, the internet, the deep ties between national economies make it impossible. We cannot just in one day retreat into isolated bubbles and pretend the big problems like pandemics, climate change, black markets can be solved within our national borders. Trying to hold onto a zero-sum mentality where everyone is out for themselves just doesn't work anymore. So how do we fix this? It's not just about governments and big organizations leading the change. Real change also happens from the ground up. It starts with each of us reflecting on where we act out of scarcity, where it is in our relationship, our finance, or even the way we eat. Where are we trying to take shortcuts and get ahead at someone else's expense? Making a good deal is fine, but here is the thing. We always get what we pay for. It's like a universal law. When we shortchange someone else eventually picks up the tab, and down the road we'll likely have to pay back this difference, one way or another. Karma has a very funny way of evening the score. Take a small business owner, for example. In tough times, they might decide just not to pay a supplier or underplay, thinking it'll help them stay afloat. It might give them temporary relief, but it could also damage their reputation, cause legal issues, or lead to even higher costs later on. Cutting corners tends to have long-term consequences, and this idea is perfectly illustrated by the prisoner's dilemma. Two prisoners are isolated and offered a deal. If both stay silent, they get a light sentence. If one betrays the other, the betrayer goes free and the silent one gets a heavy sentence. But if both betray each other, they both get moderate sentence. This dilemma shows how acting in self-interest can lead to worse outcomes for everyone. It is a metaphor for scarcity thinking. Betrayal and competition definitely feel like the safest moves, but cooperation yields better results. One of the most powerful examples of breaking free from scarcity thinking, Nelson Mandela and the end of apartheid in South Africa. Mandela, along with F.W. de Klerk, realized that the true peace wasn't about revenge, it was about cooperation. They moved the country away from a zero-sum mindset and toward reconciliation, crafting a future everyone could share. And this shift was deeply rooted in Ubuntu, that is a Southern African philosophy that means I am because we are. It's all about collective well-being and finding abundance through community. Ubuntu is the belief that we are all interconnected, that our humanity is tied to how we treat each other, and even during the darkest days of apartheid, it remained a guiding principle for many, despite the oppression. And practicing Ubuntu helped Black South Africans, not only survive but also resist the brutality of apartheid. And when apartheid finally fell in 1994, Ubuntu became a symbol of reconciliation and national unity, and Mandela, as the first Black president of South Africa, often spoke about it, saying that Ubuntu is the essence of being human. It is a philosophy that reminds us that we thrive together, not apart. So how we can shift from scarcity to abundance? It is simple: share. When we hoard ideas, resources, or contacts, we keep things stuck. But when we cooperate, like in hackathons or innovation jams, amazing things happen. Tech companies like Google host these events where employees openly share their ideas, fostering a culture of abundance that leads to real innovation. When we take one idea, we have another one, and we have the third one. I'm not going to share my business idea because somebody is going to steal. No, I'm going to share because somebody is going to listen to it and maybe they're going to collaborate. So when we get rid of scarcity mentality and stop worrying about others outshining us, everything changes. We start to create, contribute, thrive in ways we never imagined. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video, where we dive into how scarcity is used in politics and corporate culture, and what new economic models we can create to escape it. And yes, even I'm using right now scarcity tactics here. Don't miss it.